Today on the TMZ Podcast.
Welcome to the TMZ Podcast. Derek here.
Fabian here.
I hope everyone had a good Labor Day weekend. We've got a 4-pack of stories here.
Yes,
so
we
why don't
do.
you kick us off with Michael Jackson?
So we have a special airing tonight on Fox at 8/7 Central. Check it out. It's called Who Really Killed Michael Jackson? And we have an exclusive clip from that special.
Spoiler alert, it's not Conrad Murray.
It's
like
not
everyone
Conrad
thinks.
Murray.
Yeah.
It is Michael Jackson's ex-wife and the mother of his children, Debbie Rowe. And it's kind of an interesting clip. So Debbie Rowe sat down for this interview with us, and she's basically saying that she used to work for this dermatologist in Beverly Hills named Dr. Arnie Klein, who I guess was famous back then, really rubbed shoulders with some famous people. And
Really wanted access to celebrities.
allegedly, at least according to Debbie, allegedly supplied a lot of famous people with a lot of drugs, including powerful painkillers. And she says that Arnie Klein would basically trade drugs for invites to these parties and basically just for access to the celebrity lifestyle. And she says that he was plying Michael Jackson with Demerol and drugs for months leading up to his death. So basically, Dr. Klein seems to have a hand, at least in part, to Michael's death.
Yeah,
And
I mean, the documentary is sort of fascinating because everyone associates Michael Jackson's death with Conrad Murray, who was
Right.
the guy by his bedside, the last doctor to attend to Michael
And who got
before he died,
charged, right.
and got charged.
Right.
But it really reveals that the addiction problem and the substance abuse went a lot further. And Michael, by the end of his life, had something like 19 aliases. He was getting scripts from everywhere. And apparently Dr. Klein, who Debbie Rowe worked for,
I think that's actually how she met Michael Jackson.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
which is
So
crazy to
he
think,
did
like,
use this doctor, and she ended up being the mother of his children. But
Right.
it sounds like he would go to these parties and bring Percocets,
Yeah.
bring Percocets, bring what else? Quaaludes, I've heard.
Right, and she says they were out
Just
on
put them in a candy
on a
dish.
candy dish for people.
It sounds like a 70s swinger party. I've seen movies
it
where
sounds
there's a
very
dish
eyes
full
wide
of stuff.
shut, kind of, to be
Yes.
honest.
So it's pretty fascinating, though, because he's not a name that you hear a lot. If you're really a big Michael Jackson fan, you'd heard of Arnie Klein before.
Sure.
But if you're sort of a casual observer of things that go on,
Yeah, this guy's kind of flown under the radar for sure. And it's interesting because Debbie Rowe, like the fact that she spoke to us and wanted to get this off her chest, you can tell that this is eating her up because in the special, she alludes to the fact that she feels partly responsible as well for what happened to Michael Jackson because, again, he was getting plied with drugs, like apparently day after day after day. There's surveillance video from within their office of him going in, seemingly alert, fully alert, and then coming out looking like a zombie.
Yeah.
And it all stems from him, I guess, like with the accident with the Pepsi commercial, he burned himself. And from, I guess, dating back then, he'd been on these powerful opioids and whatnot.
Sure.
Including Demerol. So it's a sad thing.
She brings a fascinating perspective because, like I said, she's the mother of his children, so she's in Michael Jackson's personal sphere, but she also worked with Dr. Arnie Klein
Right.
in a professional capacity, so she really has a unique perspective
she's
to
kind of the
bear on
bridge.
everything. She is the
Yeah.
bridge on telling this entire story. I'm looking forward to it because I
am
think
too.
I think it's good for these deep investigations a few years removed. I mean, he died in 2009.
Right.
Geez, lots of years removed. 13 years
It was
without
like
Michael
a decade
Jackson.
plus away. Yeah.
It's remarkable.
I still remember the day it happened, actually, to be honest
It
with you.
really is. It's one of those
Yeah.
moments like 9/11, like the Kennedy assassination that I think people sort of remember where they were,
Yeah.
remember how they consumed the news. I remember that TMZ broke the story. I didn't work at TMZ at the time, neither did you. This is long before our time.
I was just a child back then.
Yeah. You were a kid. I was not so much a kid. I was working
right.
at a law firm, but I remember the story sort of breaking, and it was massive. And it still
was.
sort of resonates to this day. I think you'll see that a lot of people will be interested in this documentary and want to see sort of what the real story is, because a lot of it was shrouded as the information sort of dribbled out. People coalesced around this idea that Conrad Murray was responsible for Michael Jackson's death. And this documentary has a different perspective on things.
It does. And one other thing I'll note is that I don't want to bait people with the Debbie Rowe interview. Even though she does not do interviews, this is an exclusive one. It's rare. She does not talk about Michael Jackson. We should just say that up front. She doesn't get personal. So if you're looking for tea about MJ, you're not going to get it from Debbie. But she does talk about Dr. Klein and his relationship with Michael Jackson, which is fascinating in and of itself.
Yeah, the purpose of the documentary is not to really be an expose on Michael Jackson's life writ large. This is a really focused investigation of what contributed to his death. And the popular conception of Conrad Murray is actually deeper than that. It's not as if he was not responsible at all, but he was sort of the last
he's
man.
in the interview. He's in the special too. He's in our special.
Yeah, and it's good to sort of hear from him because I think he's shouldered a lot. And some of it, sort of fair at the time.
Sure.
He was an attending physician. He had a lot to do with the propofol administered that night.
Right.
But it's a broader story, and I think it's good to realize that drug addiction is not a one-night affair.
No, it's
it is
not.
something that
It's usually
accumulates
the
over
opposite,
time.
yeah.
Exactly. And I think this documentary does a lot to explore it. So like Fabian said, it airs tonight. It's at 7 Central on Fox.
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock local time on Fox. So basically, whatever local time you're in, it'll air at that time, 8 o'clock on your local Fox station. And then the next day, it's going to be on Hulu streaming, so you can catch it there as well. So check it out. It's called Who Really Killed Michael Jackson. It's really good. I know Harvey's super proud of it.
Dr. Conrad Murray was convicted of killing Michael Jackson, but that's not the real story.
Who really killed Michael Jackson?
Doctors like Arnie Klein, who regularly plied patients with opioids.
People died. In some way, I was part of it. Give me a minute.
I will always love Michael.
There's a lot of folks to blame that have never had a reckoning.
TMZ investigates who really killed Michael Jackson, September 6th on Fox.
And with that, I think we can go ahead and move on to our next big story. God, this one is just...
This is massive.
This is
And
huge.
you're a movie buff, so you really care about this.
I'm a big movie
I'm a
guy.
movie buff.
I was watching this yesterday. I was actually watching the entire Venice Film Festival and the premiere of Don't Worry, Darling in general, because there's a lot of drama. But let's focus on Harry Styles apparently spitting on Chris Pine, and it was caught on video. And
so set this up for me. They're sitting on stage. Chris Pine is already sitting down. He's next to Olivia Wilde, the director of the film.
Yes, and this is before the movie's even screened.
Before it screens.
So Olivia Wilde's already seated. Chris Pine is already seated. Harry Styles is coming into his seat, which is right next to Chris Pine.
To rapturous applause. I mean,
Yes.
Harry Styles has become such a huge celebrity.
Oh my God, for
very,
sure.
very quickly. He's now
Yes.
like I think of him kind of like the young David Bowie, sort of a little
He's
bit
a
out
wannabe
there.
Bowie, but for sure.
Yes,
Yes.
So he's walking out. Chris is already sitting there, has a sort of bemused look on his face.
Right, and he's
to this
and he's
applause.
clapping. Everyone's
Yes.
clapping for Harry as he's coming in, and as he's plopping himself down, in the motion of doing that, he apparently, and it looks like it to me, he apparently like kind of leans forward in Chris Pine's lap's direction.
Yes.
Seems to purse his lips. That's kind of what I perceive, at least.
Look, I perceive it as well, but go on.
Yeah, and
But the telltale is the reaction.
Yes, he apparently spits and then sits down as if nothing happened. And Chris Pine, mid-clap, everyone's clapping as well, including Chris Pine. He stops mid-clap and seemingly in shock, looking down at his lap, as if saying in
He's
his
sort
mind,
of incredulous. Did this just happen?
Exactly.
Yes.
He's like, did you really just spit on me, bro? That's kind of the thought that I think
in
is
front of an audience.
Yes, and then eventually he kind of like looks up and is like smiling to himself, and it kind of looks over to Harry like,
Harry looks a little self-satisfied, as if I did that and I can't be caught. He doesn't make eye contact with him. Doesn't sort of
You're
rush to
right.
say an apology,
You're right.
which would also be consistent with not spitting on him. There's nothing to apologize for if he
Yes,
didn't spit
it's
on him.
frankly-
So it's hard to read. It's
I
like
wanna-
as a
I wanna
Pruder film.
say, I do believe he spit on him. It looks to me like he spit on him. The jury is out because there's no conclusive evidence. There's different angles, which people can go see on our site. You can go see the video on our site too, by the way.
Well, neither has said anything
neither
yet,
has
which
said
to me
anything.
indicates there's a little bit of smoke.
Yes, and again, Chris Pine's reaction says it all, in my opinion. And it's fascinating because if he did spit on him, and if Harry continued on and carried on the way he did, it's diabolical. It really, because he knows. You're first of all, you're a pro. You're not going to say anything right now. You're not going to make.
You're not
going to
blow this moment up and stand up.
You're not
going to
make a
confront me.
scene. Look, I know it's easier said than done, especially in hindsight. And I'm not trying to play tough guy here, but if somebody spit on me, I would certainly do or say something.
It's pretty tough not to have an immediate reaction. Sort of, you know.
And he
yes,
did. He
Chris
did have
Pine
an
is
immediate reaction.
Yes, but it was sort of more incredulous and didn't look
It was
like he was going to
contained.
stand up.
It was
Yes, It was
contained.
very tightly contained. Now, Chris Pine has been an actor for longer than Harry Styles,
He
which I think is
has.
key here. He's the consummate professional.
He
His
is.
reputation is as the nicest Chris out there. When they
Absolutely.
talk about the Chris Hemsworth,
He's
Chris
known for having the
Evans.
flip phone and everything.
Yes.
He's got this very good reputation. People love Chris Pine.
Now, my question is, let's break this down more because I'm
Yeah.
fascinated by it. The movie is fraught. There are lots of problems going on with Olivia Wilde and
Oh my
Shia
God.
LaBeouf's former involvement in the film. Whether he was fired or whether he
yes.
quit the film has been an object of fascination. Shia says,
Yes.
I left the film. He released, I think, an audio tape.
Yeah, so we've been covering this on the Movie Crashers podcast. And by the way, we're going to get into this in more depth today on Movie Crashers as well. But to your point, this is the cherry on top of what was already a very drama-filled Sunday. Not this was happening on Monday. I'm talking about a Sunday ice cream is what I mean. But yes, like Olivia Wilde and Florence Pugh, there's perceived rumored beef there. And and the fact that Florence Pugh actually showed up late, she skipped the presser,
right,
but still made it for the red carpet and then made it for the premiere. And by the way, during the standing ovation at the end of the movie for Florence Pugh, because apparently she did really well in this movie. The movie itself is getting meh reviews. But anyway, but when she was getting her round of applause at the end, Olivia Wilde is far removed. She's on the end of the aisle. away. And if you look at Florence Pugh, because I was looking at all the photos,
Sure.
she never interacts directly with Olivia Wilde at all that day. It doesn't look in her direction at all. So I think that there's some fire here. There's all the
This is
smoke. I
wild.
think there's
This is-
actually fire.
And Harry and Olivia obviously are
together. Or
and
maybe
this-
they're not, because they didn't even sit next to each other. They didn't show up to Venice together. I don't
found
know.
that interesting.
What's going on?
Did he come out and was he sort of upset to see Chris not leave the seat open next to Olivia?
No.
I wonder if that factored in.
I have a theory. So because they were doing press. So basically, the way it works is you show up. You're all doing press together. There's the main press conference, right? Which is where everyone's sitting at the same table. But there's also each person's kind of paired off separately too to do different interviews. Harry and Chris were paired together in their own interview. And if I watched the interview, it was with a different outlet.
Okay.
But they were paired together. Harry,
Was there tension in that interview?
There was, dude.
Oh, boy,
I'm gonna
the
go
plot
tell. I'm gonna go
thickens.
tell Brad about this in a second
Okay.
because there's the interview.
Tell us here. This is fresh news.
This is fresh news. So basically, in that interview where it's just Harry and Chris, Harry's taking the lead in answering all the questions, and frankly, his answers are silly. Like he sounds like a dope answering these questions. And he's talking about
He's a little out of his depth in the thespian circles. It sounds like to me. I've seen him.
You see Harry kind of taking the lead, and Chris Pine is just sitting back, far removed, checked out, and you can hear him listening, and he seems to kind of swallow and grimace a little bit at one of his answers. And I think it's possible that Harry might have been
picked up on that
or been notified about it by his team later and said, hey, did you see this Chris Pine thing? Because it was getting picked up in like live in the moment, right?
Got it.
And it's possible. I don't know if this is true. This is just a theory, but I think Harry Styles might have seen that.
And in a fit of pique,
and also
cocked one on
yes,
him.
and also when Florence Pugh arrived
Yes.
at the red carpet, Chris Pine, first of all, he doesn't have an iPhone. He has a flip phone camera.
Yes.
He had an old school film camera with him, and he was taking pictures of Florence on the red carpet, yes, man, it was a jokey thing.
So maybe factions have been
Formed.
lines. Yeah,
I
factions have been
believe
formed. There's
so.
lines drawn.
I
Chris
believe
Pine may be a Florence Pugh acolyte or
Yes,
fan,
and I think
Harry Styles on the
I
other
think that's
end.
what's going on.
This
It's
is fascinating. I don't know why it
is.
seems very old school. The 90s and the early 2000s used to have a lot of drama on
They
sets.
did.
There were
A
storylines.
lot of feuds.
Yes.
A lot of feuds.
storylines
Feuds
on
are dead.
movies. They're dead. I mean, I remember Mr. and Mrs. Smith was a huge movie.
Yes.
But the plot of the movie was secondary to the drama between
Jennifer
Angelina
Aniston,
Jolie,
yeah,
Jennifer
all
Aniston,
that.
and Brad Pitt. It was the movie
100%.
where maybe Angelina and Brad fell in love. That was
Right.
always the rumor. Jennifer Aniston, sort of the wife left behind.
Yeah.
So there were these storylines. This is the first movie I've seen
It
in the
is.
modern era where the story,
Where
the movie looks kind of cool. It looks like a
stuff-
Stepford Wives kind of movie.
Yeah, people say it's a knockoff of that, and we'll
Sure.
see. I'm going to see the movie when it comes out later this month. But
But
you're
it's
right,
completely obscured by the drama.
The drama in the background is at the forefront of the conversation.
It's fascinating to me.
It
It
is
is really. So
I
let me
love
ask you
it.
this.
I love it.
Let me take a step back. So let's say that Chris Pine comes out and says he was obviously upset about something. And yeah, he spit on me. What does this do to Harry Styles, who right now is cresting as one of the most important pop stars, sort of broader than a pop star? If this movie takes off, he will be a movie star. Does this derail him? Does this sort of launch him? Is there an anti-Chris Pine sentiment that erupts? What is going to go on?
First of all, the
here?
video I think speaks for itself, and people make their own decisions. But
He's going to have to address this.
I think
Harry is going to have to address it
because people are reaching out to reps. Queries are out at this point. Like the reach out to reps is out there, so they're going to have to respond eventually.
Spitting
And
is so disrespectful.
It
I'm not
is.
sure how he handles it.
And
If he
I got to
spit
be
on
honest,
him.
based on what I can see, it does look like he spits on him. And if that is in fact true, I think this puts a stand on Harry Styles because he's got this this perfect it boy thing about him. He's very very pro LGBT. He's got a lot of goodwill with a lot of people right now, and his fans are kind of crazy, frankly. Not to be mean, but they're a little rabid, so they're gonna get behind him no matter what. But just generally from regular people, I think this puts a stand on him. Who is this guy?
I'm going to follow this closely because Chris Pine could have rushed
Chris is
to
like
clarify.
a 50-year-old man.
He's an older actor now,
Yeah.
and he could have rushed to clarify. This guy didn't spit on me. It's a weird
Right,
angle.
but he didn't.
We're co-stars. He hasn't said anything, and that's
is
what has led to
not.
all the suspicion. We will continue to
We
follow this
will.
because
We
this
will.
is fascinating. Obviously, catnip for us.
Right.
But let's move on for now to sort of a sadder story. That was a sort of fun. I mean, it's spit, obviously.
Yeah, it's a little-
it's upsetting,
some
but it's
juicy
a
gossip.
fun,
It's
juicy
juicy gossip.
move. This is a continuation of the sad saga of Britney Spears
Yeah.
post conservatorship life. So now her son, all the attention has shifted to her sons, Jayden and Sean Preston. These are her
Yes.
sons with Kevin Federline. Jayden gave an interview where he expressed some some upset that he tended to be favored as one of the two sons, and that made him uncomfortable.
And he's the younger one.
He is the younger son,
Right.
and he says Britney favored me, and it was sort of awkward for me to watch and witness how little attention she gave to my brother Preston.
Right.
Britney, rather than sort of sitting back and sort of taking the high road, has gotten in the mud with her sons, which is a very strange approach. She released another audio file. So take a listen. This is what she has to say about how her son Jayden has been commenting on her in the media.
So Jayden, as you undermine my behavior, just like my whole family always has, I hope she gets better. I will pray for her. Pray for what? I keep working so I can pay off mom's legal fees in her house. Do you guys want me to get better so I can continue to give your dad $40,000 a month? Or is the reasoning behind you guys deciding to be hateful is because it's actually over in 2 years and you don't get anything? And if I didn't shower you guys with gifts and have amazing food ready and play a motherfucking saint, it was still never good enough.
This is awful. It's awful to listen to a mother sort of speak of her sons in this way. It's coming from a place of pain, though. It seems this family needs some therapy, but not to air these things publicly.
And I got to say, like, I'm happy that Britney Spears is out of her conservatorship. I think she was in it for way too long. That's separate than this now. Now that Britney Spears is out, I gotta say, every time she speaks, it gets uglier and uglier. She's not well spoken. She's just spouting off whatever comes to her mind, and she's not filtered or polished. And I gotta say, especially when you're aiming at your young kids, it looks bad. This is a bad look, and she sounds vulgar. She sounds this is low class behavior, in my opinion. I'm not trying to be mean to Britney Spears, but this is low class.
That's an opinion a lot of people share. Look, to put the target on your young sons. At one point during the audio, she says that he's sort of parroting his grandfather, her father, Jamie Spears, and that's really fighting words because we know what Jamie thinks of her father, and if she has any of those emotions towards her son, who really is just an innocent in all of this, she can have a sort of big sort of conflict with her father. But Jayden and Sean Preston, regardless of what you think of them, didn't do anything to sort of deserve this kind of upbringing. And yes, she brings up the money, which I think is quite gauche. I mean, it's well known that she is the breadwinner. She's much more successful in a professional sense than Kevin Federline ever was.
Yeah.
But yeah, he collected $40,000 and he largely raised those two boys. I mean, they weren't with her for a large portion of their life. Remember, the conservatorship lasted 13 years.
Yeah.
These boys are I think 15 and 16.
Yeah.
That's the vast majority of their life where their mother was laboring under a conservatorship, which she obviously didn't like.
Right.
And has sort of occasioned a lot of pain on Britney. I feel sad when I listen to this stuff. I don't feel mad at Britney necessarily. I feel sad that this is playing out in such a public setting.
I agree, and to the whole point about maybe this is about money. Like you're getting off the gravy train in a couple years. I got to be honest. I think the kids want to get so far
your
away.
Kids are on a gravy train.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I think the kids want to get so far away from Britney, and I think that they can't wait until they're 18 and just kind of just wipe their hands with all of it and just move on with their lives. Because,
I hope. You think there will be some reconciliation, though? I mean, their mother is Britney Spears, and she is
because they said
battling some demons.
You're right,
and I think they may see her that way.
The kids said publicly through their father as well that they're stepping away from Britney because they don't like her public behavior, and in response to that, what do they get? More public behavior from Britney Spears. So she's only pushing them away further. It's sad, and it's
her access to social media, which was a big bone of contention during the conservatorship. I don't think has been a net positive in her life. Now, you can have your views on whether the conservatorship.
Some people see it as refreshing or whatever, but I don't. This is tacky and just sad, in my opinion. But
It's a very, very tough situation. I don't see it getting better anytime soon either. She's still battling legally her father in court. There's depositions scheduled, all sorts of things like that.
Yeah.
I don't see that sort of thawing in any meaningful way. She has Matt Rosengart sort of. He's not her conservator, obviously. The conservatorship ended, but he is her new advocate. And it's very strange to watch a lawyer become your advocate because a lawyer's mode, I'm an attorney, is the default is contentious conflict. We resolve through conflict. And therapists and other type of people resolve through consent and amicable means. So I don't know. And this is not to blame sort of Matt Rosengart. There are
he's
fights
a bit
to
of
be
a pivotal,
fought.
isn't he?
But when you orient yourself that way, and if you're the main voice in her ear, she may be more combative. It's just my sort of opinion.
Where's Sam in all this? Does he even exist anymore? Like, what is his role? And I don't even want to talk about it.
You're right. He's been very quiet throughout this. He does voice some support for her issues with her sons, but sort of mild. Yeah. He knows he's the new guy on the block, and he's not going to,
he knows his place.
Intrude. So speaking of knowing their place, this is a fascinating little story as well.
This was probably one of the biggest stories of the weekend.
Tell me about it.
It's equally scalding of tea as the whole Chris Pine thing. But so Larsa Pippen was photographed hanging out in Miami with Michael Jordan's second oldest child, which is his son, Marcus.
Yes.
Who is 31 years old. Larsa, I believe,
Not
is
a kid anymore. That's
not a
That's
kid.
going to play into this. Larsa is 48.
She's 48, so she's 17 years his senior. And look, there's no PDA, so we got the photos of them.
They're out at a Japanese restaurant called Zuma in Miami.
They're sitting down together. Apparently, they were on some sort of double date. There's no PDA that we could see, and then our eyewitnesses are telling us there was no PDA as well. But they're sitting together. They're also leaving together. He's trailing very closely behind. I think
apparently when Larsa was noticed, some people say she looked uncomfortable. That the attention was upon her.
Once she started noticing people notice her, she got a little skittish.
Can't imagine her uncomfortable with attention, but
yes,
anyway,
but I gotta say, it seems that they're together. They're hooking up or they're banging or whatever. I don't know.
And we have to give context for why this matters. So Michael Jordan, obviously, The Last Dance was a huge documentary. Well, that documentary didn't go down well with Scottie Pippen, and there's always been sort of a tense relationship between those two. Because if you watch basketball in the '90s. Scottie Pippen was largely responsible for the success of the Chicago Bulls.
You're right.
He really was. He would always guard the toughest competitor on the court. He got sort of clutch blocks and steals, not things that necessarily fill up a stat sheet. Michael Jordan was the preeminent scorer on that team. The offense ran through him.
Michael did not
defender.
achieve the success he got until Scottie came along.
He needed Scottie. Remember, he was a fairly one-dimensional guy early in his career. He scored a ton of points, but then he really rounded out his game, became a great defender. But Scottie really was the glue.
He was.
Now, Michael can always say that when I left for those 2 seasons, Scottie didn't get it done. And that's 100% true as well. They won 3 before he retired.
But Michael wasn't getting it done before Scottie came along either.
That's
so both are true.
And these guys both have huge egos and both have a point. And some people have come out and defend them. Gary Payton has said, look, Scottie was very important, but he's gotten his due. People know Scottie, and other people have said Scottie didn't get his due. So this is a tough relationship. Now, Scottie must see this. He hasn't been with Larsa for years. They had sort of a strange divorce, and he's had some financial issues over the years. But this has got to hurt. And I don't know who it hurts more. I think Michael probably enjoys watching this.
Oh, my God, for sure. He's relishing this.
Yes.
100%. But the reason why this is even deeper is because Larsa Pippen, supposedly, allegedly, rumored, whatever, during her marriage with Scottie, especially toward the end, there's rumors and stories that she was cheating on him a lot with Future and also, and Larsa.
Yeah, there's a lot of
and Larsa. Another reason this is kind of, and I'm not trying to be mean to Larsa, but look, she hangs out with a lot of guys. She's a lot.
Malik Beasley, I think.
Yeah, like a lot of NBA players, a lot of young guys. She's just always around some kind of young dude or whatever, right? And there's always speculation that she's hooking up with whoever. Mm-hmm. Now she's with MJ's son, and this hits close to home for Scottie because you're with the son of what I would consider my mortal enemy these days or whatever. Maybe they're not mortal enemies, but my foe.
But there's a tough relationship there.
So it's like it stings even deeper than anybody else. And when we got these photos, I was shocked. And when we published them, sure enough, it started trending. It was,
and I agree with you. I think Michael Jordan, the person I've learned who he is from watching Last Dance,
he's a petty man.
There's a pettiness there.
Absolutely.
I think he may be relishing this and rubbing his hands together because to see his son with his not arch enemy is the wrong way of putting it. It's not like he was on another team, but a guy who he has some tough feelings about, and some.
So I feel bad for Scottie Pippen here.
Fascinating though.
But anyway, so I guess that's a good place to leave it.
This is all drama. I love it.
It's a great way to come back from the weekend. Anyway, go check out the Michael Jackson documentary. Airs at 8 p.m. on Fox, and we will check in with you guys next time.
See you then.
Take it easy.